Good morning, everyone. My name is Jerry Hawkins. I'm the Executive Director of Dallas Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. Our mission is to create a radically inclusive city by addressing race and racism through narrative change, through relationship building, and through equitable policies and practices. Today, we're here with our Dallas community to talk about racism, to talk about racial equity, and to talk about our next steps in our community as the world is going through a pandemic and a reckoning with racism. Today, we'll be talking to a few organizations, our partners, folks in our Racial Equity Now cohort, and just the wider community about statements that they've shared with the community about their work and about next steps. I would like to start by sharing a few of the words that Dallas CRHT shared today and also last week. Our country is tired. We've reached a breaking point of seeing Black people lynched and killed by police and white vigilantes. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery should still be alive and here with us. Botham Jean, Tay Jefferson, and Jordan Edwards should also still be alive and here with us. In this state, in every country, and in multiple countries in the world, people are rising up to say racism and police violence are no longer acceptable. In a country that has been racist since its inception, it is now time for all of us to do something. Dallas Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation has been an anti-racist organization since it was founded. We seek racial justice through racial equity to achieve racial healing. We work to eradicate the belief that in a hierarchy of human value, of narrative change, relationship building, and equitable policies and practices, to help all of us heal, we need actionable and immediate change. So number one, Dallas is on stolen land. It was built by stolen people. We recognize that Dallas will never be an equitable city until we confront what happened to American Indian people and Black people on this land. We call on the city of Dallas, Dallas County, and the surrounding DFW area to acknowledge, apologize, and work to repair the breach caused by these racist policies. We also call on DFW leadership to implement the principles of truth, racial healing, and transformation in our county and city governments, institutions, organizations, schools, churches, businesses, and communities. We also call on DFW leadership in our county governments, institutions, and organizations, schools, churches, and businesses to commit to racial equity and to be anti-racist. Diversity inclusion efforts are no longer adequate in this time. We need bold, explicit, and clear leadership along with strong action against white supremacy. We call on DFW area leadership in our country and city governments, schools, churches, businesses, and communities to shift resources away from reform and to community design efforts and inform alternatives to safety using a racial equity lens. We also need an urgent investment in mental health, self-care services, and equitable healthcare services in communities of color. And lastly, we call on our DFW area leadership to support the study of colonialization, support the study of what happened to American Indian people here on this land, support the study of slavery, and to support those local efforts to study the economic efforts of DFW specific American Indian genocide and removal, enslavement and disenfranchisement of African people, the labor exploitation of Latinx people, racialized poverty, homelessness, and the racial wealth gap must end, but it cannot without reparative action. So that's our statement. It's our call to action for our partner organizations and really leadership all across our city, county, and state. And I'm really excited to be joined by some of our partners as we do this work. I'm hoping that some of our partners can join us to also share their statements as well. I was really excited to see that we have, so many community partners who are standing up and saying that we need to do something different. And we're here to talk about that difference. Hopefully we have Justin Henry the board president of Dallas Independent School District, with us to share Dallas ISD's board statement. Yeah, so we don't have Justin Henry right now, so we're going to start with our partners at Richardson ISD. We're going to start with Dr. Stone. I've been really excited to work with Richardson ISD. Richardson ISD has been, really leaning into racial equity work here. Welcome, Dr. Stone. I appreciate you being here and spending your time. I know that you have a lot going on. First, just can you share, your name, your role, and what you all are doing in this time?
Sure. So, good morning. I am Dr. Jeannie Stone. I'm the superintendent of Richardson ISD, and we have many participating from Richardson ISD in this Facebook Live. First and foremost, I know we have a lot of students, members of our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Department, Angie Lee and Jeremy Jewett, many teachers, parents, most importantly, again, students. And also participating, I know we have members of our RSD Board of Trustees, and I'm speaking words supported by all of them, for which we're all grateful. Our stated mission is to ensure that all members of the Richardson Independent School District connect, learn, grow, and succeed through relevant and personalized learning experiences. Our work is education, and our first customers are students. Nearly 40,000 of them under our care and watch, 40,000 students who enter the doors of Richardson ISD schools, where we are entrusted with the most awesome of responsibilities to shape young children through adolescence and into early childhood for 13 years of their life, and with the knowledge and skills to leave us to join the world as contributing members of society. So I released the following statement on May 31st that read as follows. In the past week, I've heard from many. You want me to go on to there?
Yes, please.
We good with
please.
that?
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. In the past week, I've
No,
heard from
no.
many of our employees, and even from a good number of students, bless them, who've reached out to me expressing their hurt and anger over the events related to the tragic death of George Floyd. We have this culture of say something in Richardson ISD, so I feel the need to do so and to address those who are hurting in our Richardson ISD community. I want to share my deep compassion for the pain that our students and families, especially African Americans, are feeling. I'm heartsick by what I know are the challenging conversations that parents are having with their children, trying to answer many questions that begin with the word why. As the superintendent in Richardson ISD, I want everyone to know how much we love every one of our students and how important the words all means all are to our school district culture. We began some important work. We've adopted an equity policy with the specific stated purpose of eliminating any bias, prejudice, or unlawful discrimination that may affect student achievement and learning experiences, and to promote learning and working environments that welcome, respect, and value equity, diversity, and inclusion. But to follow up on this work, we have been working for almost a year on our racial theory of change to address racial equity in Richardson ISD. And when school resumes in the fall, we'll be launching a new racial equity committee to put action behind the words of our equity policy to address the historic and contemporary effects of racism. And this work will be real and it will be meaningful. And I'm grateful we're on this journey. And I look forward to engaging in this work with broad participation from our entire Richardson ISD community. And since that time, there have been a number of other statements released to staff through media responses. I was possibly most heartened just this week, by the story in the Dallas News highlighting one of our teachers, Mr. Andre Watson, and how he approaches race in the classroom through opening real connection and conversations. As a member of this TRHT cohort, this past year, you, Jerry, recently asked me in particular, tell me what it is that you would describe, one thing that's anyone and everyone could describe as part of the Richardson IC culture. And at first blush, those three words, all means all, came to my mind. In the last three, that three-letter word, all, I'm referring to our students. Our business
Yeah.
is school, right? And one thinks of subjects like math, science, social studies, and English. We think of classrooms of four walls where learning takes place. Most of us experience these educational settings, but we're currently owning in our organization that not everyone experiences school the same way.
That's right.
And so, you know, since the spring of 2017, when most everyone recalls our district had a wake-up call, an ugly slap in the face when racist memes made front page news. And now I just stop and tell you here that a lot of people request that I please stop bringing that up. But without that historical marker, you miss the introduction of a story that leads to the words that I share on behalf of Richardson IC today. Because from that event, Richardson IC has been walking toward this time in history.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was a superintendent and that happened, I was brand new, and I wanted to be one of the first people to make that go away, like front page news, like the newspaper that's often replaced by the next one. But looking back, we would have missed the door that then opened toward this opportunity we now have for change and transformation. Since 2017, many significant events have occurred. We created a Department of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion with experience, trained, and passionate leaders whose jobs are dedicated to own this work. We created an Equity Council, another group of equally passionate stakeholders who've worked tirelessly over the past year to draft and recommend that our equity policy that serves as a framework to eliminate bias, prejudice, unlawful discrimination. This is an equity policy that's fully supported by our Board of Trustees. These aren't suggestions or recommendations. It's policy. And when we think about policy is expected to be implemented as procedures or protocols to be followed by all adults in the organization. And where is this policy to be followed? It's supposed to be followed everywhere, in every playground, locker room, every place in organization. This is an important time for Richardson ISD because while we haven't adopted policy and we say that policy must be followed, what we've learned is we have put up this policy as a lens to evaluate our organization, but what we faced are how violations of this policy are hard to uncover and reveal. Bias, prejudice, and discrimination are often hard to see. But here's the hopeful part of the story because you ask us to end with a hopeful part of our journey. We say that this policy must be followed. We put it up as a lens. Here's the hopeful part of the story. Students have reached out, especially in recent weeks, of speaking out and saying something to tell us that systemic racism exists. It's real. Our employees are speaking out and they're saying something to tell us that systemic racism exists. It is real. Now, some people might not see this as hopeful, but ask what happens should it continue to be left unspoken, unseen, or unchanged. So as an organization, we are currently in a state of listening to our students and staff members of color, realizing they wait for us to move into action. Just yesterday, a group of student leaders of color presented me with a list of their demands. And while the administrator, past principal, and me first wanted to respond with students can't demand, by the end of our almost 3 hours together, I realized the significance of their choice of words. This time demands us to change. This time demands us to transform. This time demands us to make policy more than codified words, policy that's lived out by our committed employees has to be the barrier that prevents the systemic racism. Everyone has to put on a new lens to see it, and this is the hardest work. Some people call these platitudes. These are not platitudes. Commitment is to express first in words and then belief and then action and then transformation and then what we want more than ever for our students, change and healing. So to close, our 4-year Richardson ISD theory of change, as you have worked us to create, is to transform into an inclusive, anti-racist, multicultural organization. But put another way, in 4 years of hard work, when you, Jerry, or anyone ask, what is something that defines the culture of Richardson ISD? What does everybody know about us? I
Mm-hmm.
want the immediate answer to be, there is no evidence of racism. And or as an organization, we worked hard. I want everybody to know that we are working hard, and in 4 years, we want to say that we eradicated racism to breathe new life into our words that all means all.
Mm. Thank you for sharing all of that. That was really exciting and hopeful. Um, I, I'm glad that you talked about 2017 and this being a journey for you all. Um, and also, you talked about recent events about students who are giving voice to what they've experienced, particularly racism, in your district. And I'm sure as um, a educator, as a person who cares about kids, that deeply affects you. What do you think that this work will bring to the students, particularly because now you are giving voice to them and listening to them.
I'm sorry, Jerry, you were kind of breaking up, and so I didn't get that last question.
Yeah. So, what do you think that you can give to the students now that you've made this great statement and you're listening to them? What do you think that they're expecting from you now?
So the students that talked to me yesterday in particular, they wanted some of them are graduating, some of them are current students, some of them are college students. A couple went to go to SMU, one to UT Arlington, and what they want from me is an expression of a commitment that their siblings will not experience what they
Mm,
so can articulately describe and own, and now they see it maybe in ways that they couldn't when they were coming up through the system, and they demand that we own that and we make changes. And so it was great to listen for almost 3 hours to them be able to share with us things that where we can see it. We can see it in hallways or classrooms, or we can see it. Even some of them articulated their elementary playgrounds, and from that, for me, I accepted their demands with a genuine heart, and then a commitment to do this hard work to dismantle that so that their siblings will not have to ever experience what they, in a very real and authentic way, can tell me they experience, and I believe
mhm,
them. And so for them, I want them to know that their voices are being heard, and it's okay to speak out, because it's only through that mindsets can change, and healing can come for our district.
that's really good. Lastly, the work of your equity office with Angie Lee and Jeremy Jewett. They've been really working hard as well. Are you really hopeful that with the support of this office and the support of the board, that you can really enact these changes, particularly talking about a focus of racial equity?
Yeah, I have a real belief, because awareness is higher than ever, support is higher than ever, support from our
Mhm.
school board. Yeah, we have such committed people, and every single person in our hearts. We went into education. Our board went into supporting us because we love kids. But there's a lot in organization that sometimes kids experience that is just being raised to the awareness of the real work of dismantling anything that stands in the way of their success. And racism is one that is been put in the forefront recently. And And it is the hard work of all the adults to take care. It's not the kids to fix. That's one of the things that our kids yesterday said. It's not the kids' issues to fix. We're kids. It's the adults to fix and to own that. And we are committed to do that from our school board to every single one of our members of our organization. Some who need to have more of an awareness to open their eyes to see it than others, but if we all are working that together and the leadership is strong and the messages are strong, then we will. I know I'm committed. I know we will make progress. We have to for the good of our number one customers, our students.
Thank you, Dr. Stone, for being with us. We support you. Dallas TRHT supports you. And I appreciate you being very candid and being with us. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Now I want to invite Board President Justin Henry from Dallas ISD to join us. See if we can get him. Try him a little bit. Let's see. We might go to our next partner, Leadership ISD, while we're working on getting Justin Henry's video together. Is a partner from Leadership ISD here?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you. So thankful for you to be on. Really quickly, can you introduce who you are, what you do, your organization, and your work?
Yeah. So my name is Sean Lassiter. I'm the Chief of Equity and Innovation at Leadership ISD. I think just listening to the superintendent at Richardson ISD, I mean, it makes our vision for this world just like Raymond, right now in today's time. And so our vision is to envision a public education system that prepares every student of every race to achieve their boldest aspirations. And I feel like Richardson ISD is an example of laying that groundwork. The way we play a role in ensuring that school districts who want to commit to being anti-racist is that we equip leaders, advocates for academic excellence, see education through a racial equity lens, and to really look at policy and board governance in order to pull those levers to make sure that school districts can, achieve what they want to achieve. And the statement that, we put out last week, we basically said over the past few weeks, our Leadership ISD family, like many of you, has been mourning the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless other Black lives lost to the hands of police officers. Leadership ISD stands in solidarity with our Black brothers and sisters across the country and abroad who are calling attention to systemic racism that plagues the justice system. We believe Black lives matter, and we will never forget his name, George Floyd. We are committed to dismantling racial inequities across the U.S. and work alongside communities to advance public education systems that value Black children. We stand together as a multiracial organization, striving to be an anti-racist in pursuit of education excellence and racial justice. We will continue to build capacity in communities we serve to be braver in the fight against injustice by not being afraid to speak our truth, name race, listen to multiple perspectives, acknowledge and dismantle power dynamics, and innovate for the future by designing at the margins so that our Black and Brown students can achieve their boldest aspirations. We believe our greatest strength is in our next generation's freedom to learn, thrive, and lead without fear of racial injustice. We remain steadfast in elevating policies that ensure Black children aren't disproportionately disciplined. We advocate for culturally relevant practices in schools and supporting strong community partnerships that center Black and Brown voices as a primary source of change. And we challenge you to take action and build on this momentum as we have the moment. These are 4 ways to get involved to fight against oppression of Black and brown people. And so we give the link to Campaign Zero. We ask people to participate in our Braver Conversations and then support our work. So over the past couple weeks, we've had Braver Conversations with our alumni, and just to kind of check in with them and to see how they're processing everything and see if we could be of any assistance. But sometimes if people don't know, when the Richardson ISD superintendent was talking, like there's always an evolution to this work.
Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? Particularly because I'm a Leadership ISD alum, so Leadership ISD is obviously important to me and near to dear to my heart. But can you talk a little bit about that evolution?
Yeah, because you're OG, so you started off from the beginning, right?
2013.
Yeah, so there's been years, right? Almost 10 years of this evolution. I was a fellow of Leadership ISD about 2 years ago. And during my process there, I was working at Fort Worth ISD.
That's right.
And we had really committed to race, calling out race, right, and the inequities that our Black children experience. And so I was being trained in that. So as a fellow, I was like, we talked about in Leadership ISD equity in education, but not really racial equity in education. And so I didn't know, as a fellow, I had conflicting feelings around like, we got to be able to name race. Yeah. And what I can give credit to Patricia, the CEO of Leadership ISD, talked to me about that. And one of the things she said was, I don't want to just pull you in to educate us or to be a consultant. We need systemic change in our organization in order to meet the needs of our fellows. And so I came on as Chief of Equity and Innovation. And about a year ago, we really started the journey of embedding race in everything we do, every session, everything we talk about, our mission, really naming which kids are not experiencing a good education. And a lot of times districts, say all. That's why I love Richardson. She really breaks it down. It is all, but we have to be clear about which students are not a part of the all. Like which students are not achieving at the same rate as everyone else. And until we get laser focused on it, we'll be distracted by so many other things. And yeah, for sure. So, I was telling some of the fellows the other day, a lot of times in this moment, we want to bring in a lot of other inequities. And, unfortunately, Black and brown and minority people will always have their day of injustice.
That's right.
Right. So it just happens to be right now that we're calling attention to Black lives. About a year ago or whatever, when the immigration situation was happening, they had children in cages, right? That was our time to fight.
Cages, right?
That's right. We needed to be laser focused in that. There was no reason I should show up saying Black Lives Matter in that moment, because right now we're talking about brown lives, right? We're talking about people who are surviving and children in cages. Let's say laser focused. And so this is just that time in the moment that, I feel so many people are maybe having some awareness because we were a captive audience during COVID. And so when I think of being hopeful, I say a lot of people are saying this one feels different.
Yeah.
So it feels different. And I hope that's true, right? Because this work around race and racism has been my work for a long time. And so I know that systems don't change, just in a moment, right? It takes a real movement to force, right, change in systemic racism and white supremacy. So, I am hopeful that more people have been able to raise their racial consciousness because they've been inside, reading, looking, really trying to get an understanding of what's happening. And that's my hope, that we raise racial consciousness to build a culture of anti-racism. So I hope, this is that moment.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us, Sean. Appreciate you. And, Dallas TRC supports the work that Leadership ISD is doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, we will bring in our partners. Let's see, Bishop Arts Theater Center, are they here? Let's see. Hey, Teresa. Oh, just had you for a minute. Oh, yeah, we have Carmia. Hey, can you all hear me? Can you all say something so I can see if I can hear you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so thank you all for being here. Really glad to have you all here. Starting with David Lozano, who's also the co-chair for Dallas TRHT. Ariana, who is just amazing artist, writer. She does everything. As artists and as cultural producers, cultural workers, really glad to have you all here. Can you share a little bit about who you are and your organization?
Yes. So I'll share with you our mission.
Yes, please.
Carmia Theater, founded in 1996. Our mission is to inspire and engage people to uplift their communities through transformative Latinx theater, multicultural youth arts experiences, and community action. And with that, I think that explains kind of what we do. I'd like to go into the statement that we made. So we made a collective statement with other theaters of color here in Dallas, and the statement reads, "To exist as a theater of color is an act of resistance. We use the power of art to demand that our communities are seen and heard. Our art cannot exist in a silo. Our demands for narrative change are inherently politicized. Therefore, our efforts to provide voice demand that we engage in collective learning, community building, value sharing, and mobilization. We sit on the intersections of art and activism. This week's events illuminate systemic racism and white supremacy so clearly that the world can no longer repudiate what communities of color have known for centuries. We acknowledge the pain and trauma inflicted on the Black community by this week's events, the events prior to these, and the daily reminders, microaggressions, and threats people of color must endure. Our work as individuals and as companies will and must speak truth to power. We demand an end to the violence against Black and brown bodies. We feel the pain of these communities because we are from these communities, and this is why we serve. We served yesterday, we serve today, and we will serve tomorrow." And we followed up with a quote, "Artists have the capacity to have a more dominant role in shaping social thought. You've got the platform to say something worthwhile, and say something that helps the social condition." Harry Belafonte. And this collective statement was made by the theaters in Dallas Art Stillery, Bishop Arts Theater, Carmia Theater, Teatro Dallas, Soul Rep Theater Company. And I want to talk a little bit about why we made this particular statement. And so, like, real talk. The reason we chose to do a collective statement with other theaters of color was to express our earnest and very real commitment to this work. Our existence is intertwined with racial equity, and that's why we're here as culturally specific institutions. And it requires us to fight every day for equity, funding, fair practices, programming in our communities, etc.
That's right.
With the slew of Black Lives Matter statements coming out from the community, as well as corporations the past 2 weeks, I found myself sitting with the discomfort and frankly anger of the seemingly performative wokeness of these announcements.
Yes.
I thought about the many times that David and I and the leaders of these other theaters had to work late to make up for days spent at city council.
That's right.
I remember the tears I cried after bad meetings when folks denied their racist practices and weaponized their whiteness with threats against us. I thought about how we put this theater company and our jobs on the line to speak out multiple times.
That's right.
And I was angry because I knew for a fact that some of these institutions blasting out these statements were not sincere. I had been in the room with them for years, being asked to coddle their white fragility and deal with their white tears when the conversation got too rough for them. And I was angry because I know that many of these statements are performative allyship. to save face, once again, to profit off the bodies of Black and brown folks with no intention of addressing systemic racism within their workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want Carmia to contribute to that thoughts and prayers social media firestorm that ends without any action. So I don't want the white institutions who haven't done the intentional work to co-opt the actual work we have done by sliding under the same banner that we've been waving for years.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I thought it was important to support our community in this moment. And how can we do all this work for all these years and not be here right now?
Yeah.
We wanted to convey how much we really stand with the BIPOC community and how dedicated we are to this moment without adding pain to what I know these folks see as watered down lip service.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that our collective statement has helped to accomplish this message.
No, that's great. Thank you for really sharing that. I mean, obviously, reading statements from organizations who just last week, it was very hard for them to talk about race and racism, and experiencing that, I definitely relate to, and that resonates with me. Can you share a little bit about what do you think orgs and institutions need to do to support folks like Carmia who have been fighting this fight for a while? What are some things that they need to do?
I'll let David speak to that. I've been talking, so I want him to have a chance.
Well, we've been talking about this quite a bit. We've been partnering with Sarah McCurry and John Fullenwider,
Mm-hmm.
and talking with other co-authors of the 10 New Directions for Public Safety and Positive Community Change. So this is a way of divesting in the police department in Dallas and looking at how we envision a new Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea of divesting in the police and reinvesting in our communities actually shows us that our communities have been divested and, I want to say, deprived of
Mm-hmm.
essential needs. Because when we think about what an individual or a child needs to grow up to be a healthy human being, they need everything.
Yeah.
They need housing. They need a sound economy. They need education, health, and they need culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're talking about envisioning this future, and we're looking at this moment, it's so clear to me that our POC organizations
Mm-hmm.
and are actually the leaders for this moment. So because we're looking at a lot of these large white institutions and they're really struggling. And so it's time for our groups like Academia Theater, Soul Rep, Teatro Dallas to be recognized as this is a time in which we can offer leadership. Because in fact, we offer leadership since we work in the communities. We have worked in the communities for decades, and now the call is to bring the work to the communities. So it's a time for us to provide our leadership. And so I would ask people to reach out to Dallas City Council and let them know that you support divesting in the police department and reinvesting in our communities in healthy ways, and mention that you support funding for the POC arts groups such as Bishop Arts Theater, Teatro Dallas, Soul Rep, Academia Theater, and other groups. And in fact, other organizations in different sectors. But that's what the action is right now, is reimagining Dallas and communicating this to Dallas City Council so that this conversation stays right on point with our city officials.
Thank you so much. Lastly, really briefly, what's giving you all hope in this time, and what should we be looking forward to?
For me, what's giving me hope is
Mm-hmm.
people seem to be hungry for resources and for learning. And to me, if we all really work on ourselves individually and really acknowledge, the racism that's within all of us, whether it's, whether you're a white person or whether you're internalizing it as a person of color, I think that the hope of this moment is that people are hungry to learn and to dive deeper into this work. David?
Well, I would say that I'm hopeful because our communities, our Black and brown communities, have so much knowledge.
Yeah.
We have so many skills,
Mm-hmm.
and we have so many resources. And after being ignored for so long, it's our opportunity to actually be centered and for us to be able to impart this knowledge that our bodies are our temples,
Mm-hmm.
and that we have traditions that have helped us care for our bodies
Mm-hmm.
and to release pain and to release tension and to release trauma. And this is also prepares us to do the work that is out in the streets in engagement that is also stressful and is full of agitation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the pendulum that we ride as people in this moment. And we have the skills. And we have the skills to do both, to agitate and push, as well as to heal ourselves. And thanks to leaders like you, Jerry, and so many leaders out there that are able to facilitate these gatherings and bring us together, that we're able to come to terms and make agreements. So there's a lot of possibilities out there.
Yeah.
So as you can see, how I work and how Ariana works, but your function as well as bringing people together on one stage is just really powerful, and all of that gives me hope.
Appreciate you. David, Ariana, thank you all so much for being here with us. We support you. We appreciate your work, and Dallas TRHT supports you. So thank you so much. I appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Next, we're gonna go to United Way of Metro Dallas. Oh, we got Bishop Arts here now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Perfect, Jerry. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Teresa, I love you so much. Please tell us who you are and your organization and what you all do.
Excellent. Yes. My name is Teresa Coleman Wash. I'm the Executive Artistic Director and founder of Bishop Arts Theater Center. We are a multicultural theater company. We have been in existence for 26 years, and we are so delighted. I'm so delighted to be here with you today, Jerry. We were chartered in Atlanta. We moved to Dallas in January of 2000, and the building that is now known as the Bishop Arts District, Bishop Arts Theater, was donated to us in 2005. It was a dilapidated photography studio. I know you know this, but for your audience, the building was donated to us in 2005. We raised a bunch of money, was able to complete the renovations in 2008. And so since then, we have been producing a full season of theater performances, jazz concerts, speaker series events, and year-round arts education programs. Jerry, we have always considered ourselves a neighborhood resource center. We've never felt like a traditional theater. And in this moment, that feels like a strength, because in 2008, when the economy plummeted, just as we finished the renovations, we held focus group meetings and we asked our stakeholders, what are we doing that you'd like to see us do more of, and what are we not doing that you'd like to see us implement? And what we learned was that parents wanted somewhere for their children to be during the after school hours. So this notion of theater companies and arts groups being a public safety issue, to David's point, we have always done that. We've always been a resource to getting kids off the streets, placing them in a productive, constructive, controlled environment during the extended workday. I want to say this, David. I am so grateful for Dallas Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation, because when we finished the renovations in our building, we had such lofty plans about how we were gonna, have naming rights and have, do so much to pay off our construction loan debt.
Yeah.
I did not realize that Dallas ranks dead last in economic inclusivity until we started. We were accepted into the Racial Equity Now cohort.
Wow.
The history of Dallas is heinous. I had no clue about any of the hurdles that we were, first of all, going to go through. And then, after our training with Dallas TRHT, I connected the dots. I'm like, okay, that's why it's been so tough. That's why, the fact that Dallas had the largest KKK chapter in the country at one time.
That's right.
That mindset is still there.
That's right.
You know, and also, you know, we purposely don't identify as a Black theater because I think that you know, and two, I love the racial I'm sorry, my Alexa is going off. I don't know if you can hear that or not. But you know, I love the collective statement that the organizations of color made, because in that very sentence it says the existence, the mere existence of our organization is a resistance.
That's right.
You know, the fact that we have been able to not only survive but thrive with everything that is against us is a resistance. And I want to go back to the reason why, you know, we don't necessarily identify as a Black theater, because I think for the most part, people see my Black face and automatically assume that we are a Black theater company. But I'm sick of people thinking that Black people can only have agency over Black things. You know, why is it that I was so excited about Kamala Harris running for president, but I knew that she would not be the nomination, because for the most part, society doesn't look at Black women and think, oh, she can be, you know, she can be the leader or the CEO of a white institution. You know, we are pigeonholed and labeled as having agency over Black things and not over all things. And so we want to push back on that. We have been pushing back on that since our existence. We are certainly an organization of color, and I just want to read our statement on racism. And it was important to me that our board of directors craft this statement. I didn't write this statement. I want your listening audience to know that this came from our board of directors, my bosses. So over me, I wanted to make sure that they had, you know, agency over this. We find ourselves.
Thank you for saying that it came from the board.
Yes, yeah. We find ourselves yet again in this cyclical motion, always on the precipice of reimagining a more just society and better world. Systemic racism and injustice plague our communities and have done so for far too long. The time for reparations in all of its forms is now. The time for change is now. Nonprofits exist to serve their community. BATC is more than just a performing arts venue. We are a neighborhood resource center for justice, more peace, and more love. We exist to serve you. Prayers to the families of those who have lost their lives. May they be with the ancestors, and power to those families who are working peacefully to usher in a better world. Bishop Arts Theater Center stands with you. You know, but even if we didn't make this statement, I feel like we are doing the work. Our board of directors are, you know, more than 50% of people of color make up our board of directors and our staff. So we're really excited that, you know, in this moment, as exhausting and as harrowing as it is, I'm excited about the possibility.
You answered my last question, so just
I'm excited about this moment, because the fact that How to Be an Anti-Racist is the book is on back order, you know, books like White Fragility. I do see people who are trying to educate themselves, and the fact that we can openly talk about systemic racism, we do it behind closed doors, you know, at our board. But the fact that we are having a conversation about this as a country is so exciting for me.
It is exciting. I think Angela Davis actually said that. She's like, I am excited that the whole world is talking about being anti-racist. So that's amazing. Teresa, thank you so much for being here with me. I wish I had more time with you, obviously, but we support you. Dallas TRHT supports you. And, Bishop Arts Theater Center, look them up. Thank you so much. Now we'll bring Poetic and my friend Hey Song. Hi, Hey Song. How are you? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Hello. Oh, hi. You
How
see me?
are you?
Okay,
Could you hear me?
great.
Okay? I
How
can
are
see
you?
you.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. We had a little glitch.
Could you hear and see me? There's like a
I can
delay.
now. It is a little delay, but yeah. Hey, Sung, please
Yes.
introduce yourself and your organization and your mission, please, and tell us who you are. Having a little technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
Okay. Hi, my name is Hae Sung Han. I am a clinical psychologist. I'm also the co-founder of Poetic. At Poetic, we build a pipeline. I can. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
I'm just going to go.
Yes, please.
So at Poetic, we build a pipeline out of the juvenile justice system for girls with a history of sexual abuse, commercial sexual exploitation. We address the systems. Sorry. I don't know why this is just not working.
It's okay. We're being patient. No worries.
I can't hear you.
Okay. We're gonna come back from Hey Song. We're gonna just check on her internet. We're gonna go to our partners at United Way. Hi, Susan. Hi, Ashley.
Hey, can you
How
hear
are
us?
you? I can. How are you all?
Yay. We're well. Thank you so much for having us this morning.
No, thank you all for being here.
And
we're
thanks for hosting this. Yeah.
of course,
Thank you.
of course.
We are honored to be part of this. So my name is Susan Hoff, and I
Yes,
am
please
the
introduce
Chief
yourselves
Strategy.
and the organization.
Yeah,
Thank you.
my name's Susan Hoff. I'm the Chief Strategy and Impact Officer at United Way of Metropolitan Dallas, and I'm joined by Ashley Brundage, my colleague, who is our Senior VP of Community Impact. And so I'm going to kick it off by starting a little bit about our mission and focus, and then Ashley is going to talk about our statement as well as our action steps moving forward. So United Way of Metropolitan Dallas is an old organization. I would say we are part of the establishment of Old Dallas. We are 95 plus years old, established by corporate and philanthropic leaders back at the early part of the 1900s, with the commitment to raise dollars to invest in organizations that were providing charitable support for those in need across the community. Our focus today is ensuring that every North Texan has the opportunity and the access to achieve their full potential. And our focus areas are education, financial stability, and health, which we believe are the building blocks that everyone needs to achieve to thrive, whether they're a community, an individual, or a family. And so, those are really good sounding words. And I think United Way for many years has been a really committed, solid organization. And I would be remiss if I did not say that we have driven considerable impact and done many good things across the community. But I also would be remiss if I did not differentiate between being sincere and good and an intentional focus on dismantling racism. The former is focused on driving charity or providing charity. And the latter is really ending the need for charity. And I would say that United Way's journey has been long. It has been mirrored with much of Dallas, which I think is built on built by people with good intentions. Good intentions don't always make good change or
That's right.
lack change. And part of the gift of being engaged in with many of you, and particularly with you, Jerry, and the work of this cohort has been to help us take a really good, strong look at ourselves and to leap beyond, I would say, that focus of doing good and really beginning to think about how we can make lasting change. And so that's a critical effort. Again,
It is.
I've always said to people, charity depends on people that need charity. And if you really want to end that, then you need to figure out what are the systems, what are the actions, what are the behaviors and beliefs that many of us who work in this industry hold that continue to make the need for charity exist. And so
That's
I would
right.
say that's where we are in our journey. We still have much work to do, but I believe that we have the will, we have the commitment, we have the resources and the partners to move forward in a way that really makes a different Dallas, not one that is full of people who want to do good, but people who really can achieve our mission in terms of making sure that everyone has the opportunity and the access to achieve their full potential, and meaning that and sincerely driving that work. So I'll turn it over to Ashley to share our statement, and then we can talk a little bit more about next steps forward. But again, thank you.
That sounds good. Thank you, Susan.
Hi. So we released our statement. I want to read it to you. We at United Way of Metropolitan Dallas are outraged, devastated, and heartbroken by the brutality that led to the deaths of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, and so many other recent acts of racism and violence. Our hearts go out in deepest sympathy to their families and all those affected by these tragedies. The recent incidents involve violence and threats against African Americans, expose the persistent and underlying racism, prejudice, and privilege that prevent people of color from being treated with dignity and respect. Everyone deserves to live in a society where they feel safe, respected, and protected. We can and must do better to guarantee that the rights and freedoms of our Black and Brown neighbors in every community are ensured and protected. In the end, we all have a role to play in creating a more equitable future. At United Way, we believe that to achieve racial equity, we must unite as a society and commit to systemic change. We stand in solidarity with community members and other organizations addressing racial disparity across our nation. We remain committed to building an inclusive and equitable region where people from all races, cultures, and communities have the resources and opportunities to thrive. We support the many peaceful protests happening across North Texas as we call for justice and continue to make our collective voices heard. So what does that mean for us? As Susan stated, we have long been committed to meeting the needs of all North Texans, but in recent years have become increasingly focused on racial equity and systemic change. In response to the July 7th, 2016 police shootings, we established the Unite Dallas Fund and made a significant investment in the launch of Kellogg Foundation's Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Initiative in North Texas. We were also selected as an initial cohort member, so thank you for that. Through that effort, we've brought ongoing equity, diversity, and inclusion training and resources for our team. Introspection, learning, and investing in effective resources and effective efforts are essential to us. But we feel that taking a stand against racism and holding ourselves accountable for acting accordingly is more important now than ever before.
Yeah.
Moving forward, we hope that you'll see with the launch of our Aspire 2030 goals an intentional focus on addressing disproportionality and long-term education, income, and health outcomes for African American and Latinx children, youth, and adults. That means ensuring United Way funding is done through a racial equity lens, that we continue to bring inclusion and equity into the grant process. It means building capacity and supporting diverse nonprofits through efforts such as our Nonprofit Success Institute. And it means advocating at the local, state, and federal level for policies that advance equity and opportunity for all North Texans, and specifically for our African American and Latinx neighbors who are disproportionately impacted. Working together and united, we are committed to addressing systemic challenges and inequities, healing our community, and putting opportunity in the hands of all North Texans.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley, so much. Ashley, I'm not sure if the community understands that United Way has been very supportive of a lot of racial equity initiatives in the city. Can you share a little bit about what you all have supported or funded? In particular, obviously Dallas TRHT, but the stuff with MDHA and some other things.
Right. So when we launched the Unite Dallas Fund in 2016, we're also able to fund the Spark research that MDHA helped host that looked into the overrepresentation of African Americans in the homeless population. So we learned through that report that, and I'm going to probably get the numbers a little bit off, but it was like 70% of the homeless population is African American, when only 17% of the general population in Dallas is African American. And so in follow up to that important study, we were able to fund another piece of work with Spark and MDHA and TRHT to help work with the bridge to see how we can increase the racial equity policies and processes that they have implemented there, so that we can make sure that the bridge is not doing anything to increase this overrepresentation that we were seeing, that they're providing the same services that to all of their homeless population that they should be, and helping house all of our homeless population. We, through North Texas Cares recently, we launched the common application, and with that application, we made a distinct effort to make the application as simple as possible, because we wanted to see grassroots local organizations not only be able to apply, but to get funding through this effort. So that one application went out to 30 different funders. And I can tell you from a United Way perspective, we were able to fund so far 300 different organizations with $3 million, and half of those organizations are organizations that we've never funded before and we've never interacted with before. So we know that by reducing the barriers that are usually there for receiving funding, that we were able to get that emergency assistance out into the communities that needed it the most, especially those organizations that are run by and helping people of color.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So what are some next steps for United Way?
I think we will launch our 2030 goals in September. And so you will see all new 10-year community impact goals coming out of United Way with an intentional focus on those racial disparity outcomes that we see in education, health, and income. So along with those goals, we will you'll start seeing a new way of working for United Way. So we are going to get more targeted into neighborhoods where we see those disproportionate outcomes occurring. We are going to start moving around the funding and the way that we fund a little bit more. So things that'll be happening probably on the background, you won't see visibly too much, but we're going to be doing a whole lot of that work so that we're making sure that those funds are getting out to organizations that are on the ground doing the work to make some systemic change.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, probably the most visible change that we will make is through our reporting and scorecards, by which we hold ourselves accountable to the community. We will be intentionally focused on addressing systemic racism. And it is not that we have not been in that space before, but we have not put ourselves out there as saying this is a stake in the ground and publicly holding ourselves accountable for that. And I think that's probably the most significant difference that you will see in forward facing.
That's great. What gives you all hope right now? What are you all excited about in this time?
What gives me hope is how far I see organizations across the spectrum moving forward. And, you know, I honestly believe that you run is that there are windows of opportunities that open and close. And when a window opens, you run as fast and as far as you can through that window, because it's really hard to go back once it closes again. And that's what gives me hope right now. I will also say what gives me hope is that I see such a vast, strong wave, particularly of young people engaged, from students up to young adults, who are really moving forward in a way that I haven't seen in my lifetime. And so
Yeah.
that's who I think changes the world. I mean, we change the world collectively, regardless of our age, but I think it is highly dependent on the youngest generations to move us forward. And I am excited to see that in these really hard days.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Ashley?
Um, I am hopeful because I feel like this moment in time feels different, and I'm hopeful that we as a society are going to take advantage of that and, you know, as Susan said, run through the door. But we have got to continue this momentum past the media frenzy that's happening around it. I'm hopeful that out of that we will see some real change happening. But I don't want us to lose this energy and this momentum once the news cycle is over. So I'm hopeful but fearful at the same time.
That's right.
But it does feel different, and so I do hope that this just keeps going. I'm moving my hands, but you can't see them.
Thank you all, Ashley and Susan. Worked with you all for a while now. Really appreciate your consistency and your support. TRHT supports you all, and just appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Now I want to bring back Hey Song. 1 second. Try Hey Song again. See if she is here.
Could you hear me?
Not see her.
Could you see me? She's here, but she
All right,
can't.
we will try.
Oh, God. Jerry is off. Okay, just talk. Okay. You sure? Hi, everyone. My name is Hey Sung Han. Hold on, they're telling me just to talk.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being with us too and being patient with us.
Could you hear me or see me? You can hear. I can see you. Perhaps you can introduce yourself. We see you. Hi. Oh, okay, you guys do see me.
While we're waiting for our folks, feel free to visit Dallas TRHT's website. We have this report on there. It has some Dallas history in there. It's called A New Community Vision for Dallas. Has some great history about some of the racial injustices that have happened in our city. And we look forward to it.
Okay. It sounds like everybody can hear us, but they can't. I guess we can't see each other. We can see and hear you. Okay, we can hear you both.
Hey, I'm seeing that Hey Song is on. I can't see her, so I'm just
Could you guys, okay. Hi, so you can hear me. You can see her, but not Jerry. Yeah, I don't see Jerry. Just go ahead and talk. Okay, so Stephanie's telling me just to go ahead and talk, so I'm going to do that. And hopefully Jerry can come back. So my name is Hae-Sung Han. I am a clinical psychologist, and I'm also the co-founder of Poetic. Poetic, okay, you can hear me. Poetic built a pipeline out of the juvenile justice system for girls with a history of sexual abuse, commercial sexual exploitation, and sex trafficking. We address the systems, not just the symptoms of exploitation and trafficking. And we do that by addressing generational trauma, generational incarceration, undereducation, poverty, and the objectification and sexualization of young girls, especially Black and brown girls. And we do all this through our in-community intensive programming right in the heart of downtown Dallas. We put an on-site school where she can earn her high school diploma. Our trauma therapy center is where she and her guardian are paired with a therapist and a caseworker, and she has access to this team of support 24/7. Our creative art therapy center is there because we believe in the power of arts and creativity and the development of self and self-love. And we also plug them into paid internship and employment opportunities in the community. Hi, everybody. I see all your comments. Love you, Stephanie. And I know one of the questions that Jerry had asked for us to prepare is, what was our organizational statement? And as many of you know, Poetic is very small. We are a team of 6, but we're mighty. So when it came to a statement, it really wasn't a statement, it was a sentence. And it really was a reminder and a call to action for us as individuals, as staff at Poetic. So the statement was this, that our commitment is to listen, to learn, to read, to act, and join you in changing the systems that disproportionately oppress Black youth. We will call out racism when we see it in our homes, in our organization, and in our communities. And we will not stop until everyone is equally valued. And that's actually a play because we have a tagline of until every girl is equally valued. The day before we sent that out on social media, we have our board member, Dr. Galliata, who is amazing, and she sends us daily mindfulness activities ever since COVID to really keep us grounded. And one of the things that she sent that I posted was, I just thought was so true, and I wanted to share that, so it's on our social, is the pain in the present can be seen as a consequence of our failure to fully see, own, and respond to the injustice in the past. Because we have failed to deeply appreciate the atrocities we perpetuated against people of color, specifically Black people, and have continued to perpetuate. We have continued to repeat atrocities, large and small, over and over. And what I loved about that statement is that it acknowledges that we as a country, we as people, we did this. We created racist practices and systems to oppress Black America, but we collectively can undo this. We can go beyond statements. We can universally acknowledge the history and have real intention to change. And the change is every day, in every meeting, in every conversation, and it has to start with the individual. It has to start with me. It has to start with me owning my stereotypes, my biases, my thoughts, and how that seeps out and what happens even in conversation with myself, but then also within my family. And the call is to call racism out in your families. And if we do that, then we can call it out in our organization. Then we can call it out in our community and really make meaningful, sustainable change. Do I keep on going? I don't know where Jerry is at. Okay. So what is next for, okay. So what is next for our organization? And then Jerry's gonna come back. So Poetic was created to address the systemic failures in Dallas that were
Well, thank you, Hey Song. I wish I could have talked to you. I really appreciate the work that Poetic does. Hey Song is an amazing leader. Really appreciate her being with us. So please support Poetic and the work that they do. I want to bring on my brother, Antoine Joyce, who is also part of Dallas TRHT. It's Antoine here with us.
Hey, Jerry. I'm here.
Let's see if she's here.
I seem like I have the same problems as before, as Poetic, but check 1, 2. Hey, Stephanie, what about?
All right, so we can't hear my brother Antoine right now, but Antoine Joyce, amazing leader. We'll definitely get back with him at a later date. We're going to close out because we are having a little technical difficulties, but I wanted to just say thank you all for being with us. I appreciate every organization that has come on and shared their statements and shared their action items, which are more important in addressing race and racism with the community. We want to just say thank you to all of our organizations and my dog that's barking. And I appreciate everyone for being here. Folks in the chat are saying they can hear him, but Antoine couldn't hear. He couldn't hear himself. So we're gonna, try him at another date. Thank you all for being with us. Please visit Dallas TRHT. Please visit all of the organizations who are committed to racial justice here in the city. Please visit our website. We have resources on COVID-19. We have resources that you can read. Again, we have our new community vision for Dallas. You can download the PDF. We can also download our economic supplement report and, read more about our cohort. You can also download the TRHT implementation guidebook. It tells you all about our framework and the work that we do. Join us in building anti-racist environments in Dallas until we no longer can think about segregation and redlining and all of the things that separate us. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here with us.